Well, hi everyone. Welcome back to another costumeco interview. Today, I am delighted to have costume designer Chloe Carman. She is the costume designer behind the new show Fantasmas. Hopefully, I'm saying that correctly on HBO. It's a bit of a mouthful. And so far, there's 4 episodes out. I was delighted to be able to watch the 4 episodes. And so, to start off with, I want to introduce to you Chloe. Hi, Chloe.
Hi,
How
it's so
are
nice to
you?
meet everyone. Or you specifically, I'm great. I'm reporting live from New York. Maybe you can see a little bit.
Awesome. I can see the little, yes, the buildings behind you. Hopefully you're having nice weather.
Oh, yes, wasn't even muggy today.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm in Toronto, Canada, so we get similar weather to you. So it's like very clear and crisp here. So now before we get into talking about Phantasmas, so everyone can get to know you a bit better. Why don't you tell everyone a bit about yourself?
My name is Chloe Karmin. I'm a costume designer in New York City. I spend all my time working with creators and collaborating, and I love the basis of a script to send me into all of my resources and creative forces. And I really love being always having something that's a little under wraps to refer back to and infuse all of my new creations that I'm getting into. I think about that a lot, and a lot about being adjacent to fashion and the arts, but being very informed by them.
Well, I feel like after watching this show, I have a little bit of a hint into your soul. Just a little bit. Before we get into talking about the show, why don't you tell everyone how you first got into costume design? Like, what's your background?
Oh, have wanted to be a costume designer since I was 13 years old. And I realized that that was a job, and that, somebody's job to choose and furthermore design everything that came on TV. And I've always loved dressing and fashion and art, and it's a perfect mix, along with, script analysis and reading and character development. And
It's really,
that's,
oh,
sorry, go
sorry, go ahead.
ahead. No, you.
No, I was going to say it's really interesting you're talking about this because a lot of the times when, people find out, that they look at costumes, they sort of about it as picking out pretty clothes. And I love how you're immediately sort of speaking to the script and the story. Just a wonderful sort of, your viewpoint is refreshing because a lot of people don't always know that. Um, did you study costume? Did you work on other shows? Like, how did you get involved in working in costumes?
Yes, I was I joke, I was the only costume design major at my college, but I got a liberal arts degree, and I was able to really work on all of the productions. And I had an incredible advisor who's a Baroque opera specialist, and her name is Bonnie Kruger, and she taught at my school, Washington University in St. Louis. But the school also had a really incredible liberal arts department, a business school, and a really incredible art school called Sam Fox Design. And so I was able to really be multidisciplinary, and that's another thing that I love about costume design is it's not, as you say, just pretty things. And I was able to stay very focused and work on most of the productions, but also continue my studies in other realms. And then I worked on shows like Succession for other incredible designers like Michelle Matland and Catherine George, who designs a lot of films for Bong Joon-ho. It's really incredible, and I think maybe this doesn't happen so much anymore, to have mentors and proteges, and to really learn from people doing their craft and practicing their craft in a very studied and very experienced way.
So now I have to admit, when I was showed this show, like I'd heard about it, my husband, I said, "Do you know this show?" And he says, "Yeah, oh yeah, I've seen it." I didn't know who Julio Torres was, and now I did a little reading. He worked on SNL, apparently. It looks like you also worked with him on another project. So, for those who aren't familiar with Julio, do you want to sort of explain a little bit about him and what? I mean, it's very
Oh,
fantastical. It's very funny. Do you want to explain a little bit about that?
yes. I think having to describe the show, especially even before it's been publicly released to future collaborators and past when they check in on me, is some of the challenge. And writers who are writing about the show are doing it far better than I ever could. But it's about a missing bauble or a missing piece of jewelry. And ever since I started working on it, I call it Julio's version of high concept sketch comedy with a surrealist twist. And there are plot lines and core cast and characters that continue throughout. But the main unifying factor is Julio's voice and Julio's appreciation and sentiment for all of these ideas that he's constantly and emotions. It's not just ideas grappling with and surrealism and corporate America and what it is to be an artist and what it is to be just a multidisciplinary human being and the obstacles that we continually come up against.
So how did you come to know him? How did you get, like, how did you start working with him?
I worked on Problemista, which is his. Have you seen Problemista?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's Julio's film. Julio is also a comedian and is famous for his sketches for SNL, like Papyrus, which is a really famous one. And he wrote a script, I think before COVID. And it was made into a movie with him as the main actor and Tilda Swinton as the other lead. And I was lucky enough to be working at that film at that time for costume designer Catherine George. And that's how I first became acquainted with Julio and Julio's work, although I had seen his sketches and loved his sketches without knowing it on SNL for years. Mm-hmm. And Problemista was just also such an incredible, incredible project. So it's nice to work with people who you really respect and love their work.
So why don't you tell me a bit, like you mentioned a bit about Fantasmas, like there's 4 episodes out. It's sort of like each episode has like a different cast, like it's sort of like a standalone piece, I guess you would say. And you're working with some pretty famous people as well, like Stephen Buscemi. You've got, I've noticed there's a lot of SNL cast. So it's like did he like surround himself with his friends, his colleagues, call on people? Like, what was that experience like working on that show?
I think Julio is very respected by other artists and collaborators. And for instance, if Julio ever needs anything that I could collaborate with him on, it's an ultimate yes, because his vision is so singular and it is so creative. And I think his friends, his colleagues from the comedy world, and also artists and performers who have come in contact with his work are amazed and just so happy to be involved. And that goes from maybe a best friend from college who also is in the arts and is in the comedy world to megastars who I think he's maybe only met once.
That's so great.
It's incredible.
Well, I haven't seen, like, I know Emma Stone, I think, is going to be in it, but I haven't seen that episode yet. So we have to wait for that one. Now, first off, some of the reviews I've been reading, like the costumes are oftentimes mentioned. That's got to be exciting for you because they are really a standout in the show. And there are a lot of them. Like the first episode was like, oh my gosh, there's so many costumes in this, like, because we're dealing with so many different characters. So how did you find that challenging? Like, how did you, I'm assuming you started with the script.
Yeah, obviously, always start with the script. Pretty much every day starts with the script multiple times a day. But I truly love to draw, not because I'm an incredible artist, but because it's a way that I work out problems. And I think in this case, I almost couldn't draw fast enough to work out the characters. And I would do a first pass with image mining and just draw out. And I think that's why I connect with Julio, is oftentimes when he sees something visually or hears a word, it has it's almost a form of synesthesia when I listen to interviews or when I talk to him about it, his impressions about a character or the scene of him acting out color. It's a different type of processing that is very emotion and based. And I think I approach the script that way. And when I would get a feeling for a character just reading it, I would do a simple inanimate object sketch, and then it would become a costume sketch, and then that costume sketch would change dramatically when an actor was cast. And I really believe in the model that we're a designer, and that is, even if you're redesigning things multiple times because, oh, that actor and their physicality doesn't fit, or that hair color doesn't make sense for that color combination, and so on and so forth. Things change constantly, and it's a bit of like visual telephone designing, and that process, even though it feels like you're redoing it constantly, is really valuable. So when Kate Berlant was cast as Madame Victory, my sketch changed, and so did all the sketches that informed the world that she was acting in. And that has to be the progression. It can't just be that you stick an actor into a part and that you've pre-designed it. So I was always constantly drawing in an effort to keep up with Julio, and I think I'm pretty fast and visual, and I would joke that I couldn't draw fast enough, but that was a good thing. So yeah, it's like a visual blueprint or how I work.
Mhm. Did you also do, like, besides your sketches, did you do mood boards, like, to help you with color or palette or textures?
Yeah, of course I use definitely mood boards. I did a huge fabric shop before, and had a lot of rolls of fabric, and that tactile aspect of it would constantly come into play, but it really helped just having, your constant wall of swatches, and knowing that this strange world that we were building that was unlike the real New York and unlike any other world, it was based in tactile experience, and that these fabrics also had personalities and lives of their own, and that to follow the path of that, if that makes sense. But again, it was constantly changing if there was a new actor, if there was a new vision.
So, where did you get some of your inspiration?
Oh, wow. Julio is an incredible, I would say I have lots of visual references constantly, and Julio has some. So oftentimes I would patch together what it was, like something he found on Instagram when he was scrolling in between setups, and something that I had found at the beginning of the project. Um, I usually like to start with books. There are a few that I love, but I always go to a bookstore at the beginning of a project, or on Amazon, and buy a few new books. And it's a layered process. I never use just one reference unless that one reference is my sketch, because I think that doesn't lend itself. You can't just have one visual reference. You have to have multiple, and you don't create layers in a story from just one that's not designing from just one. So, and I say this, the costume in the beginning, or that's referred to constantly, the jester costume, the dream sequence, is an amalgamation of Candy Mountain, an Instagram maker who Julio found and introduced me to, Jeffrey Bean, museum piece, a Bauhaus reference that I have and I use constantly, separately from the Jeffrey Bean, of course. And then a dead stock fabric that I found, and also some visual illusions I wanted to play with, and a 17th century costume pattern.
I thought, I saw one of the pictures. I was like, oh, did she have that 3D printed, the fabric? So it was like dead stock fabric you used?
The triangle to circle power mesh, no, I found it.
Oh,
I just
okay.
sort of went to a fabric store at the beginning because I knew I might not have time to go ever again, and picked out everything that I think, especially for Julio, I mean, I knew that Julio's character would have multiple changes from the beginning of the show, and I was working with it in my mind for months. And I just chose things that I thought both of us would love. And it's really, really easy when you have such a clear vision of someone, and you're working with a director, an actor who has respect for your stylistic choices. And there was never any question. It was about those fabrics. So no, I did not have those 3D printed. It's a power mesh that I just found on the floor of an old fabric.
That's awesome. So the sorry, I was sort of thinking it's like a Harlequin. What did you refer to his dream sequence outfit as?
The jester, the
The
Harlequin.
jester. Okay, with the pointy hat.
Mhm.
So you custom made that, I'm assuming, or had it made?
Yes. The hat was always going to be a cone from the
Mhm.
script, but I really wanted to add rickrack because I thought it changed the rickrack tie, the black rickrack, because I thought it blurred the line between it being a cone and so severe and integrated it with the rest of the costume. Again, that's a jacquard, silk jacquard, that I thought was both Bauhaus and schoolhouse, and a dead stock, beautiful fabric. And I just knew it when I saw it. And then, and the bolero, let's call it, was actually a recreation of a Jeffrey Bean lines with, we actually played with that pattern quite a bit. So it was inspired by a Jeffrey Bean, but it really didn't end up anywhere like it. And then I needed all of the lining to be color blocked in the same regard and to be popping out. And each piece just, it evolved so much. I mean, that took several weeks.
Mhm.
And the tights were just random online.
Yeah, they're
And
like a Harlequin diamond sort of
mhm.
pattern. And then the shoes, the gold shoes, my gosh.
I know those were actually a rental,
Oh,
a
okay.
costume rental, but they really just added to the physicality of the costume and how Julio moved in it. I mean, and the sleeves obscured his hands perfectly, and it's really wonderful to see what an actor does at that point.
Mhm. Now what about all the other costumes? Like you've got a like it's very you've got such an assortment. And did you do any more building, or did you just, buy, rent,
I mean,
vintage?
all of the, of course, the algorithm was
Mhm.
custom made. I really wanted a I really wanted a false silhouette that played with the physical, the idea of hardware and software, human, machine. So I created with a maker who I use with a lot. We took a metallic organza and attached it to a thermoplastic breastplate that we fused to Dominique's form so that it would reference the female form. And obviously, thermoplastic is a very common cosplay material that people use all the time, and its applications are wonderful. But and then we just found caps that we made look silver, and I really wanted tubing coming in and out. And the idea was that the female form would ripple away from the body but look metallic at the same time, dissolving our perceptions of the human form and the mechanical one, and also confusing us.
Now, besides those two costumes that you mentioned, which, sound pretty challenging, were there any other costumes that you're like may not seem challenging, but were extremely challenging?
I mean, of course, Amy Bryant's dress was extremely
Oh my gosh, it's
challenging.
amazing. She's the toilet designer.
Yes, she's the
Is that what
she's
her
the
name would, toilet costume designer? What would she be?
Oh no! Oh my gosh, it's an atelier.
Yeah, Atelier, sorry.
Please.
I actually like those designs. I was like, I wouldn't mind making over my toilet.
I know, a new craft to get into.
Hmm.
God.
Absolutely.
Um,
Except for
no,
the sequence might be a bit uncomfortable, but you could put a lacquer over it, I suppose.
yeah, exactly. I know, like the sequency.
Now,
Exactly.
did you do the toilet atelier designs as well, or did you just
No,
do
our
hers?
set decorator Pippa
Okay, it was very
did
fun.
and they were so incredible. But
Mhm.
80, I really wanted it to be for her to wear a part of a toilet in some way or somehow. And of course, she couldn't act the whole sequence in that piece, and it was meant to be a plunger.
Mhm, that's what I
So,
got from it. Okay, cool.
and
Great.
then to have, but of course, a dressed up plunger. It can just be a
Mhm.
regular plunger. And so the swag of the velvet and the mixing of the both furniture, upholstery world and the human again, and also to just be an absolute shock. And I wanted to play off. And it was funny because when we walked on set that day, and of course that plunger skirt, we was a whole thing to put on, and Adi was really, really wonderful and excited and knew how she had to wear something ridiculous that would make it all make sense. And I think the curtains behind her and the swag of the curtains really brought everything together in a wonderful, wonderful way. In addition, I mean, there are so many costumes, but the Man and Victory we talked about, of course, we custom made that. The whole Superman human suit, that I wanted it to feel homemade and splashed together and not anything of a Marvel world.
Mhm.
But also for it to have drama. And we made that in a matter of days. Of course, we custom made the mermaid costumes. Of course, we custom made, I'm trying to think what else, a few more, which will come to me. Julio's whole closet was really custom made, except for a few pieces. I didn't custom make any shoes for this because the lead line times were just too long. Julio's jacket, there's a really special jacket that's gotten glimpse that actually has a hand painting of the New York skyline.
Oh, I think I have a picture of that. We can put that in. I'll add that. You know what costume I really loved was Q, which, by the way, his character was hilarious. But I really liked him. You kind of went with sort of a punk rock, old washed up punk rock. I don't know. Do you want to
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, old washed up punk rock. That's a perfect way of saying it.
Thanks. Like Sid Vicious or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny.
Mhm.
A lot of my inspiration came from Judy Blaine. We actually pulled trash off the banks of the Hackensack River, sanitized it, and sewed it to Q's, their costumes. And I was really, when I heard Steve Buscemi was going to play that part, I was so excited. And I was like, oh, this is a challenge for the costume department. Because take an actor who would never play that, or who you've never seen play a part like that, especially now, and let's make him a gender non-binary performance artist. Of course, let's do it.
Mhm.
So they're wearing Gautier sometimes, and then they're wearing tulle skirt bought from a mall store with stuffed animals sewed into it. They're wearing trash. They're wearing, I hate to say it, some weird Amazon screen printed thing that we destroyed. They're wearing
It's like lots of safety pins, I think.
a
Was
lot of
there
safety pins.
almost like a necklace or something? What was it, like some kind of art piece?
Yeah, it's supposed to be an art piece that they would have, that they would have crafted on their own. Sort of Timbins era type thing, but we made it in house and just really pieced together some trash. But again, nothing, even though we might have purchased a piece from Amazon on this, nothing was ever just put on a character. We reworked everything constantly. Everything had to feel like it came from a full Julio atelier. We joke, we're of the House of Julio. But it really had so many wonderful hands crafting and making everything on set constantly, because we were always attached to our stage. And we had very limited timelines, and I'm really, really proud with the ingenuity and the incredible team that was able to make everything look handmade when we couldn't build from scratch.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay, aside from the challenging costume, do you have a favorite costume? I know it's always hard to pick something your favorite, or maybe what you're most proud of, if that might be better.
Oh, I think some Julio looks that didn't get full body. I'm really just proud of the entire. I can't pick a favorite, of course, and I'm just proud that everything feels like it integrates so well with our complicated sets. The production designer played with projection a lot, and sometimes I would agonize about an avant-garde piece going with this mixed dimensional form and how the colors would go. And I'm really always happy with how everything was integrated, but also you could still have disappearing clothes amidst all this. It wasn't, I'm not trying to scream costume, costume all the time. And I think I'm really proud of integrating with this fake world that we constructed. And also, again, it's never just a designer. It's never just a custom build. It's never just software and hardware. It was always a really long integration of multiple pieces and references. And it's hard when you work on a stage and not on location and at this production level, because everything needs to have dimension. Everything needs to have multiple references. And otherwise, everything looks really flat on camera or not. And it was a constant effort of us being on set and saying, wait, we have to play with that for 1 second. It's reading really flat. It's not, or it's taking too much. Let's swap that out. And without having constant camera test time, I think the incredible entire costume department did a really good job of giving this whole world a dimensionality that it didn't have.
That's amazing. So, have you been, have people been calling you? Have you, like, what are the responses been from your colleagues, from your friends?
I mean, I'm just, the other day, this has been my favorite thing. I was sitting at a picnic, or sitting at the park with some friends, and not a picnic, and someone turns to me and go, have you seen this show Fantasmas? It was so incredible. And I go, you're joking. And they're, no, it's so good. And I go, I designed that, right? And they said, what? And I couldn't believe, because I couldn't believe that somebody loved the show that much. They were just we didn't small talk at all. That was the first thing they said. And that means more than anyone calling to congratulate my work. You know what I mean? Just knowing that the show is such a success and that it could live up to the feat of what Julio wrote, and that we breathed life into this incredible project. And at the time, it was like, oh, is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? Are we going to make it work? And of course, I think knowing that it was successful as a whole is the most incredible thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy for you and all of the success and accolades you're getting. Now, do you have anything coming up that you want to share with our viewers?
I have an exciting film coming up, and as soon as it's released, I'm looking forward to sharing it. And I'm starting a project with female filmmakers, but right now everything's a little under wraps because it's a
Yeah. That's okay. And you have that, you're on Instagram, I believe, which I can add that to the description.
On Instagram, and I'm usually posting full head to toe looks from the show. And there are so many things that you miss when you're filming. There's so many, and especially the way we filmed. Our DP was incredible, but oftentimes we were hiding the fact that it wasn't a full set. And I think Sam Levy, our DP, did an incredible job, and our production designer was incredible. So I think that I'm always trying to put in the full look and show viewers who want to see what that was. So follow me for more of that.
Yeah, I was saying, I've talked to a few designers now, like with Instagram, it's so great that you can, now I guess you have to wait maybe till the episode airs to do it, but, or there's some, rules around it, but it's really great that you're able to share your process and, tag the makers and things like that who worked so hard on these things, oftentimes don't get the appreciation. So I follow a lot of designers and makers on Instagram for that reason.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me today. I really appreciate it, coming in from beautiful New York City.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a pleasure.
Oh, as well for me. And anyway, I look forward to having you back. Hopefully once you have your new project revealed, we can have you back and chat about that.
Yes, I can't wait. Thank you, Heidi, so much.
My pleasure. Okay, well, have a great day, everyone.